Our first guest is in the spotlight today as we highlight In the Podlight, a podcast that captivates conversations surrounding the challenges faced by creatives today, post pandemia, as I like to say, which includes topics such as representation, artificial intelligence, union strikes, streaming platforms, and this is all in collaboration with his fellow co host and co producer, Caroline Leem, a well known casting director. And with a combined 40 years of experience in film, television, and theater, they delve deep into the current state of entertainment, offering valuable perspectives, exploring the profound impacts of the ongoing social justice movement, and envisioning how it will impact the future industry. Everyone, please welcome co producer and co host of In the Podlight podcast, Grant Kretchik. Hello.
Hi, thank you for having me, Rhina.
Welcome.
Appreciate it.
Welcome.
Thank
This
you.
is very exciting, and I want to say very well needed.
Yes.
Right? So while we're here on a talk show discussing your podcast, I do want to mention that as an artist, myself as an artist who originates from the theater and being a thespian and everything, acting, this kind of information that you're offering is so important. It's important because right now I want to say if there's one thing that everyone is suffering from is mental issues. And with that, also competing with the artificial intelligence.
All of it.
And then there's the, I guess, relearning how to navigate through it, right? Because
Absolutely.
it seems like everybody has to do everything themselves now.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's just, it's so, I think, difficult, you know, as one of our guests says, and I love the quote, it's so difficult to find your joy where you lost it. And so the sort of restarting, I think, in this entertainment, in this climate, and I don't mean just the climate of the entertainment industry, I mean the climate of the country. It's sort of difficult to know where to start and to know, more importantly, where you belong, right? So hopefully part of the goal of the podcast is to say, you know, you're not alone, and there are people who have sort of picked themselves up and figured out how to navigate and find a path forward in this challenging time where work is more scarce than it has been in a long time.
Yeah, and it's kind of scary. And what I really do appreciate is that based on the list of guests that I noticed you have a very diverse guest list, a diverse roster of influential individuals at that. This isn't just a podcast, and not that there's anything wrong with just having a podcast to discuss issues, but this is like extremely informative.
Yeah.
Right? and informative with an authentic flavor.
Yes.
Because diversity is very important.
Right, and so, you know, I think a lot of people think we talk about diversity a lot, but you can't talk about it enough.
Right.
And it comes in a lot of forms, right? It's not just global majority. It's not just, you know, LGBTQ. It's diversity of thought. It's diversity of perspective, diversity of lived experiences. And it's not just the guests who have a diverse perspective, but some of our guests are from organizations that are, you know, like Music Cares, that are really there to help support artists through the downtimes and through, you know, through the pandemic or through the post-pandemic. And I think we talk about it, you know, but seeing is believing.
Right.
When you see, or in this case, hear yourself, or you not just hear yourself as an artist, but hear yourself with somebody who has a background or an experience like yours, you know, hopefully it just creates a little space for somebody to say, like, oh, maybe I belong, maybe I can do that. At Pace University, we have a lot of identities, and I wanted to create something that I had hoped some of our students might see themselves in, or hear themselves in, or identify with.
I know creating a safe space is one of your mottos, and I think that's what we're all looking for anyway. What I didn't mention is that you're a professor at Pace, so because you mentioned Pace, let's talk a little bit about that, because this podcast actually comes under a Pace umbrella.
Right, so the podcast is In the Podlight, but it's actually on the Sands Talks, which is the podcast platform for Sands College of Performing Arts at Pace University. Yeah.
And so what, I guess, inspired you to design this particular programming?
Yeah, you know, it was the pandemic for sure, and that has certainly shifted everything for everyone in
But
so
even
many
for
spaces.
you as a person,
Yeah.
I'm saying even coming from you.
For me,
yes.
so yeah, I'm a member of the LGBTQ community. I think I just hit my mic, y'all. But I think in the sort of post George Floyd space, we all had a reckoning. We all had to look inwards. We all had to do some reflecting, and I think we can all admit that somewhere along the way we all made some mistakes. We all said some things, we all did some things. We just, sometimes you don't even know you're doing it, and like any institution, we went through stuff, and for me, I hope it's a little bit of a way to right some of those wrongs, or to create visibility that we're coming through that, and we're trying to improve, we're trying to do better. And I want it to be a little love letter to communities with diverse backgrounds and experiences, and really let them have the platform. They're in the PODLIGHT. I just ask a couple of questions.
Right, you shared that strategy. You were like, well, it's really their podcast.
It's their podcast.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And what a beautiful way to present it. And really, what I'm getting from the way you're describing it, it's a recreation of culture, which is what we're all working towards, and hopefully what we will move forward with in this year's election. And
oh, we're going there. We're going there.
We're not going there. We're going to stay here because the actors, they need guidance, and they need to know that they have a place, that they can reference for professional advice. I mean, I was able to listen to, I know you've only released like maybe two?
Released two, and
Right.
I think by the time this airs, we'll have released three. Basically, it's every Tuesday through Election Day.
So it's important
It's
that
not
we
deliberate,
listen.
it's just how it worked out.
And so, you have Rebecca Damon on,
Yes.
right? Who is very influential at the SAG-AFTRA. She had a lot to do with even merging the two,
Yes.
the two unions, right? And I know you talked a little bit about the strike that occurred, and also we got to know her a little bit, and how she comes from the Midwest, and once again, there was something refreshing, and listening to you guys talk about the Muppets, and
I think it's important to humanize the conversation, right? Because you can go to a lot of places and get information, right? But I think humanizing the experience, helps you lean in a little bit more. Sometimes it can feel like medicine, right? And so if there's a human on the other side of it, hopefully everybody feels a little more gentler, kinder to receiving information.
right.
Yeah,
there's something to be said when you humanize it, it becomes more relatable,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then she's an extremely influential individual.
Yes.
I don't want to get her title wrong. I know she's the New York local executive director for SAG and AFTRA, which is a big deal,
It
right?
is.
And you made her accessible to a lot of individuals who will be listening to this podcast. And then you have, let's just name a few of them,
we
because
have
they're
LaShans, Victor Vasquez, casting director, Michelle Sukahara from an organization that I didn't even really know existed called CAPE, which is Coalition for Asian Pacifics in Entertainment. There's just really good resources. LaShans talks a lot about Black Theater United. Rebecca obviously talks about SAG-AFTRA. But to have somebody come on and talk about this organization for Asian Pacifics, I don't know if my students, I don't know if our students, I don't know if the entertainment community knows that there's community out there for people.
And that's the key word, right? And I think we're grateful to you for coming here, bringing it to our community and our viewers, because that's what it's all about for us. It's about community, and I want them to understand that you also come from the commercial market, as does your partner, so you understand
Right.
the value of having these conversations in this form.
Yes. If stories aren't told well, if they're not told right, if they're not told authentically, our experience with entertainment, our experience with theater, our experience with movies and television, they can become our truths, And there's a danger if they're not told authentically, because that truth can be distorted for not just the community, right, but the people who are receiving information about the community, and then that can become a reality. In some ways, maybe that's really good, but commercially, you know, we want to tell these stories, but do we want to tell them right and authentically in the commercial space? That's I think the schism. That's the divide.
Right.
You know, and
Yeah.
are there people at the top,
Right.
who are making the decisions for these communities, for these stories that come from different lived experiences?
Yeah, and you know, if you guys aren't getting it, you know, there's a business behind this. That's the bottom line.
There is.
There's a business behind it, and they capitalize off of like what's trending versus like the authenticity of the story. And you know, I get it that we do live in a capitalist society. However, there's something a little more justifiable when it's being done authentically.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, Victor talks about this in what will be just last Tuesday's episode. It's when there's an opportunity for somebody from a group, and there's very few opportunities, and it's not given to somebody from that group. It's an atrocity. It's
Yeah.
really a mistake. It's really egregious. It's been happening for ever and ever and ever. And you know, you obviously, you want the best person for the part, but if they're not the authentic person for the part, how could they possibly be the best? You know, there's another guest says, I was working on and I said to one of the creatives, a woman of this age and this background, my background, wouldn't say this. And the creative said, I think they would.
Got it. Here's to inclusivity
Yeah.
on all levels.
Yeah.
On all levels. We're out of time, Grant.
Oh,
I knew
thank
that
you
was
so
going
much.
to happen. I knew that was going to happen. I knew we were going to dive in.
Yeah.
And then it's like, wow. But I think that's a wonderful note to leave on. And also, that's a nice teaser for you guys to tune in. All right. Once again, Grant Kretchik, co-producer and co-host of the In the PODLIGHT podcast. And once again, you guys, be sure to check out the episodes of In the PODLIGHT, which are available on all streaming platforms. And you can go directly to their website by going to inthepodlight.com. All right, stay tuned. There's more open when we return.